What is going on, YouTube? In this video, I am going through the Steelers against the Bengals game on Thursday Night Football this week for week 7 of the NFL season. It should be a pretty interesting game this week. We can get pretty much two outcomes from this game, one of which is your typical AFC North battle. Thursday Night Football, slow pace slog, low scoring, a lot of field goals, just an ugly game altogether. Or I think there might be some potential for this game to shoot out a little bit, nothing like a 30 to 25 game or anything, nothing going, way over the total. But we are looking at two really bad pass defenses in this matchup this week. I'm going to go through position by position. I'm just going to break down what I'm seeing in each spot: quarterback, running back, wide receivers, and tight ends. And I'll also mention some of my top player prop picks for the game as well. So first off, before I get into the plays though, I do want to remind everybody, join the free Discord server. The link to join is in the description below. And if you wanted to see all of my bets for the week, that link is also in the description below as well. You would need access to my Odd Shopper Tales VIP package. Basically, I post a bunch of write-ups, a bunch of plays and everything for you guys to do a ton free. But if you want to see every single bet I am placing myself, you will need to subscribe to it. So first off, let's start with the quarterbacks here. So we'll start with Joe Flacco. Flacco's only played the one game with the Bengals so far this season. He passed for 219 yards against the Green Bay Packers. This is a pretty solid matchup for him. So the Steelers have allowed 245 passing yards per game this season. If we scroll down here, look at some of the most recent games. Even Dylan Gabriel passed for 221 yards. Wentz, 350. Drake May, 268. And Sam Darnold, 295. So it could be a pretty solid matchup for Flacco. This 235.5 number is a little bit high for me. I really don't have a lean either way on this one. Could he go over? Yes. Could he go under? Yes. I'm probably not going to target Flacco specifically, but there are a couple wide receivers that I think we definitely could target in this game. Moving over to the Steelers, though, and Aaron Rodgers, a really, really plus matchup for him as well. The Bengals are allowing 258.5 passing yards per game, which is second worst in the entire NFL. Rodgers' prop is at 218.5, and he's only gone over this number twice. He's not a guy who's going to throw for, 300, 350 yards anymore. But the matchup's pretty dang good. Jordan Love, 259, Jared Goff, 258, Bo Nix, 326, Carson Wentz, only 173, and Trevor Lawrence, 271. So you had four guys passing for almost 260 yards or more against this Bengals defense. It's been rough. This Bengals defense has been really bad this season. Rodgers going over this number, there is potential. There is a wide receiver that I am going to target in this game, though, on that side too. Moving over to the running backs. So with the Steelers, it's a pretty much even split almost between Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell. Warren's got 43.5% in the rushing share. Gainwell has 33.1%. If we're looking at the target share between the two of them, we'll scroll down here, go to receiving yards. Warren's got only a 10% target share, whereas Gainwell has a 16.5% target share. So yeah, these two running backs, basically Warren is more between the sticks, not much passing game work, and Kenneth Gainwell is the passing game running back. Let's look at the matchup here for Warren on the rushing side. So the Bengals are actually allowing the third most rushing yards per game with 120.3 yards per game allowed to running backs this season. Some notable outputs: Josh Jacobs put up 93 yards, Montgomery 65, Dobbins 101, Mason 116, ETN 71. Pretty decent spot for Jaylen Warren to go over this number, especially if Pittsburgh tries to establish the run early. This number is at 49.5 on Hard Rock. If you can find a better number on FanDuel, 48.5. Doesn't make too much of a difference. He's only gone over this number once, had 47 twice, 52 once, but he's had really tough matchups the last three games. You had the Seahawks, you had the Patriots, and you had the Browns, which are three of the top 5 rush defenses in the NFL this season. So this is a pretty solid spot for Jaylen Warren to go over this rushing number. If you're looking at receiving yards, though, the Bengals are also allowing the third most receiving yards per game to running backs. But I'd rather focus on Kenneth Gainwell for this one if I wanted to pick one. Let's go here. We'll go, where are we at? It's first quarter receiving yards. Here we go. Receiving yards. So he's averaging 15.8 receiving yards per game, but he is getting 5 or 6 targets in most game. I do think if the Steelers do get up pretty early in this one, they won't need Gainwell to get too involved in the passing game. But the target share is pretty good. The Bengals have given up a few decent games to running backs getting receiving numbers. Josh Jacobs, 57 yards, Jahmyr Gibbs, 33, RJ Harvey, 40, and ETN with 18. This line at 18.5, solid, but it might be just a little bit too high for my liking. Moving on to the wide receivers, though. Actually, I got to head over to Chase Brown really quick. So Chase Brown, I'll touch on this really fast. The Steelers, bad against receiving yards allowed. Chase Brown's gone over this number in 4 out of 6 games. It's a solid play to play this over 16.5 receiving yards. And if we move over to the rushing yards prop for him, the Steelers have an average run defense, only allowing 89.2 yards per game. Chase Brown has gone under this number in 5 out of the 6 games this season. Really not a play I'm looking towards either way for Chase Brown this week. But the 2 plays, really 3 plays that I want to focus on are these wide receiver plays for both teams. So first off, I'm going to start with DK Metcalf if I can find him. Where are you, DK? So DK Metcalf over 58.5 receiving yards. So the Bengals have allowed, I think it's 7 wide receivers to go over 60 yards, 65 yards this season. We had Golden, we had St. Brown, we had Sutton, we had Marvin Mims, there was Justin Jefferson. I think Parker Washington went over that number in the first week of the season too. So seven wide receivers have gone over 65 yards against the Bengals this season. This is a really good spot for DK Metcalf. The Bengals are giving up 156.2 yards per game to receivers this year. Metcalf's gone over this number in 3 out of 5 games, averaging 71.2 yards per game. You see here, Calvin Austin, he is questionable, so if he were to miss, it might lead to an extra 1 or 2 targets for Metcalf, but I don't think it's going to be too significant for it to go, way out of proportion. But Metcalf is the number 1 on this team. He has a 23.3% target share, albeit it is a low volume passing attack. But the easiest way to beat this Bengals team is through the air. And DK Metcalf, this number is just way too low at 58.5. So that is my first official pick this week. Honestly, if you want a free parlay filler, PrizePicks is giving you 29.5 as a Green Goblin line. There's almost 0% chance that he loses this prop unless he gets hurt. So solid play on the DK Metcalf over on the receiving yards. Heading over to the Bengals side, though, we have 2 guys. We have Jamar Chase and we have T. Higgins. It's kind of a toss-up which one's going to go off. Basically, the Steelers are giving up a lot of yards to outside wide receivers this season, and both these guys run their routes on the outside. You had Addison with 114 yards, Jefferson with 126 yards, Smith and Jigba with 103 yards, Cooper Kupp, he was out of the slot, but he had 90 yards against them. And I believe there was another one here in week 1. I just don't have it displaying right now, but really good spot for these outside receivers against the Steelers. I think one of Chase, if not both, will go over 100 yards receiving. If I had to lean one, I'd probably go Chase. Obviously, he's the alpha. He's leading the way in target share with 29.4% of the targets as compared to T. Higgins, 18%. But Flacco did like involving T. Higgins last week. He did give him 8 targets in the game last week against the Packers. So honestly, both of these guys could go over their receiving props. If you want to ladder one or both of them up to over 100 yards, I do think at least one of them goes over 100 yards this game. I'm just not fully sure which one just yet. And now we'll move over to the tight ends. So the Bengals, Noah Fant, their tight end, he really doesn't get too involved, but Mike Gesicki is out, and this number is pretty low. The Steelers are allowing 71.8 yards per game to tight ends this season. You can see a common theme here. 2 really bad pass defenses. So there is potential for this game to actually show a bit of scoring. But Fant only has a 9.3 target share, but the Steelers are bleeding yards to tight ends. And Njoku, 28. Fanning, 81. Hawkinson, 39. Henry, 90. And Barner, 26. This 25.5 line for Noah Fant is a little bit too low, and I think it might be one of my plays that I do end up making for Thursday night on my slips, especially on my plays over on Underdog Fantasy and PrizePicks, where I have to have players for both teams, and I love that DK Metcalf line, so I'm going to have to pair it with a few different things here. Moving over to the Steelers tight end situation. Jonnu Smith, he is the de facto tight end one. Pat Freiermuth does get a little bit involvement, but Smith has a 15% target share on the season. The Bengals are allowing 65.8 yards per game, but he's only gone over this number in 1 out of the 5 games he's played this year. Some recent performances against the Bengals with tight ends. Tucker Kraft, he had 43 yards. I thought he would actually have a little bit more last week, but he only ended up with 43. Laporta, 92. Ingram, 29. Hawkinson, 49. But honestly, all those guys, Kraft, Laporta, Ingram, Hawkinson, they're a lot more involved in the passing game than you will get with Jonnu Smith. So I'm probably going to lean staying away from the Jonnu Smith situation here in this matchup against the Bengals, although the potential is there for him to go over. I just prefer the wide receivers more, DK Metcalf, and then the 2 guys over on the Bengals, and maybe even some Noah Fant as well. So hopefully you guys like this breakdown this week. I tried to do things a little bit different, wanted to go a bit deeper for you guys, really show you my research process when it comes to finding these props for Thursday Night Football. If you like this video, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and best of luck on your bets this week, everybody.